the Transcendent Catan and the Tesseract Vault, the biggest and most expensive unit in the index. Time for another Win with Necrons video.
Necrons!
Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, time for another Win with Necrons video. I want to talk today about the Transcendent Catan and the Tesseract Vault. Before that though, if you would like to keep up to date with the wonders of Warhammer 40k, then please give me a sub and hit the bell button so you don't miss an upload. Okay, so today I want to talk about the Tesseract Vault, which contains the Transcendent Catan. You can also take the Transcendent Catan separately, and that's what we're going to cover first. So let's have a look at the Transcendent Catan stats. Okay, so the stats of the Transcendent Catan. He moves 8 inches. He's got a weapon skill and a ballistic skill of 2+. He's strength and toughness 7. He has 8 wounds and 4 attacks. Leadership 10 with a 4+ invulnerable save. He's also a character, a monster. He has the fly special rule. His faction keywords are Necrons and Catan shards. Okay, so that is the stats, and it's fair to say that those stats are exactly the same as the Nightbringer and the Deceiver, with the exception that this guy is in the heavy support slot rather than the elites. Now, it does mean that potentially, if you want to do a Catan themed army, you've got to be able to get more Catans on the table because of the different slots. But yeah, it's worth noting there's heavy support, and it will be taking up those very vital heavy support slots, which we do desperately need to help us take out vehicles. Okay, so the Transcendent Catan is about the same points as the other Catans. He doesn't have a shooting attack. Of course, he has the powers of the Catan, just 1 power. In close combat, he's -4 AP, and he does D6 damage, quite similar to the Nightbringer, except this guy can't wound infantry on 2s. He just uses his normal strength, strength 7. So not quite as good there. The Deceiver, of course, does 3 damage rather than D6. So you know, there isn't really that much difference between them, except this guy isn't going to be able to wound as regular as a Nightbringer, and it doesn't have the shooting attack. It does have its own special ability, and that's called Writhing Scape, which is taken from the previous codex. This has quite short range, it's only 6 inches, but it does deny your enemy a cover save. Can be useful, but I wouldn't necessarily build my whole army around a 6-inch bubble for that particular rule. So overall, I think if you want to take a Catan, the best ones to go for are going to be either the Nightbringer or the Deceiver. We've talked about how to use them in this video here. So I wouldn't necessarily take a T-Catan. It does have a place in the Codex, being in the heavy support slot. Could be arguably useful if you've got maybe all of your elites filled up and you still want to take a Catan. You could throw one of those in there if you wanted to. It is worth noting that the Transcendent Catan does have the keyword of Catan shards, which doesn't really mean anything at the moment, but in the future, who knows what it means. Maybe we'll get some extra bonuses, maybe it will be a great opportunity to field a Catan shard themed army. I would love that. I've got quite a number of Catan shards, and indeed in the past I have fielded a Catan army. So something to keep an eye out for the future. So that's the Transcendent Catan covered there as a unit by himself, but of course he is available to take inside the Tesseract Vault. So let's have a look at that unit and the stats. Okay, so the Tesseract Vault at full strength has a movement of 8 inches. Its weapon skill 6 and has a ballistic skill of 3. Its strength 8 with a toughness of 7. 28 wounds with 3 attacks. Leadership 10 and a 3+ save. It's a vehicle which is Titanic. It also has the fly rule. Its factions are Necrons, Catan shards and Dynasty. Okay, so that was the Tesseract Vault, and what an awesome model it is. How much fun would it be to put that model on the table in your game? But is it worth putting on the table? So it comes in at just under 500 points. It's 70 points more than the Obelisk, which we talked about in the previous video, so I'll link you up to that here, just in case you're interested in that. Now it has the same stats as the obelisk, with the exception that it has more wounds. So it's got 28 wounds as opposed to 24, and also the toughness is different. It's toughness 7 as opposed to toughness 8. Now, in my opinion, that toughness 7 does make a huge difference. Now, 28 wounds does sound like a lot, but bearing in mind you've got no quantum shielding on this thing, you've got no invulnerable save, it's vulnerable to macro weapons, it can be taken out fairly easily, especially with that toughness 7. That does make quite a big difference to toughness 8. So with toughness 8, any strength 4 weapons will just be wounding you on 6s. Toughness 7, they're going to be wounding you on 5s, and it does mean those medium strength guns that are toughness 7, like plasma and auto cannons, they're going to be wounding you on 4s. It's a huge difference, so bear that in mind. That's the one thing that I don't particularly like about this tank. However, 28 wounds sort of makes up for it in some cases. So it does mean that you need to get this model in doing damage as quickly as possible. Now its range of its damage is 24 inches. As usual with Necrons, it's not bad. So from deployment, put it up front and get it into range as soon as possible. So weapon wise, it's got the 4 Tesla spheres, just like the obelisk. So it's going to give you 20 shots, hitting on 3s, any 6s, you get 2 extra dice. On average, you're going to get around 20 hits through, and they're strength 7. No AP, unfortunately, but still a good amount of shots coming in. And on top of that, you have the powers of the Catan from the Catan inside. And this time, you've got 3 Catan powers when at full strength. It does drop as you take wounds, but starting off, you have 3 Catan powers. So in the shooting phase, you're able to use the powers of the Catan. Now we've talked about those powers previously. On average, you're going to get between 1 and 3 mortal wounds per power. So you're looking between 3 and 9 mortal wounds, depending on how well you roll. And that is pretty good. Okay, 2 of the powers are the closest target, but even so, it's a very nice thing to have on top of those extra guns from the Tesla spheres. So you can put out quite a bit of damage with this, and that's what you need to do. You need to get it in quick, doing the damage, depending on the enemy. Because if your enemy has the right guns, they will be able to take this out quite quickly, and that's where you have to weigh up the points. Is it really worth 500 points? Well, I know a lot of people will say, no, it's not worth the points, it's very expensive, it doesn't do as much damage as other Lord of Wars out there, don't bother taking it, it will just go down turn 1. Well, that may be the case, it may go down turn 1, but go back to 7th edition, and I had my monolith taken out with a D weapon turn 1. I've had my Tesseract Vault taken out with a D weapon turn 1. So, you know, nothing really has changed. At least it's not a one-shot wonder. At least you got some hope with 28 wounds. Toughness 7, bit of a letdown. I wish that was toughness 8. But definitely a playable unit, definitely good damage output. I will be using it in my army list. Indeed, I have a battle report coming up with me using this model and 2 monoliths. It was a lot of fun and I really enjoyed it. I think you'll enjoy the battle report, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, that's it for this video. Beam me up.